Hello participants, you might remember me. I'm Kshema Jose from the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. This is module 3 of unit 2 in speaking and listening. In this module, we discuss presentation skills. The skill to make effective presentations is an ability essential to succeed in both education settings and professional contexts. And in this module, we take a quick look at a few important features of effective presentations. There aren't many mediums more effective than a presentation for impactful communication of messages. A good presentation has the power to change your audiences, add to their knowledge, better their information, alter their views, influence their ideas, or modify their beliefs. A presentation is a multimodal ensemble. I say this because it's a product made up of multiple modalities. In addition to our voice, we use text, body language, eye contact, gestures, visuals, and other multimedia, and even leverage space to communicate a message. Why? As Professor Ajit Kumar pointed out in his introductory lectures, in face-to-face settings, perhaps you could even deploy the sense of smell to communicate your message. Throughout this module, we'll be drawing from several other modules of this course to support the points we are making. We'll refer to Unit 1 to recall phrases used to introduce oneself and phrases that can make us sound polite and formal. In addition, we will also rely on Units 3 and 4 for working on developing our skills of reading to identify main ideas and the skills of writing such as summarizing and note making. Okay. So let's start, shall we? Presentations require you to bring together and exhibit various skills such as your ability to communicate your ideas clearly, present information in an interesting manner, speak fluently, use visual aids, look confident, and interact with your audience efficiently. You will notice that this is true of all speeches or public speaking as well as of presentations. In this unit, we look at how to ensure some of these in our presentations. Do take a look at module objectives in Unit 2, Worksheet 3. Please download the worksheet and keep it ready. It's available along with the module script. It has both learning tasks and activities for you to practice what we learn in this module. The worksheet also has multiple resources that you can consult to practice presentation skills on your own. Practice, ultimately, is what's most important for a successful presentation. I found this very relevant regarding practice. This is attributed to George Bernard Shaw. Although I could not verify the source, I would still like to use this here to remind us of the very significant role that practice plays. Practice makes perfect. So please remember to use the resources, tasks, and activities in the worksheet to practice each part we talk about today. So here we go. Part A, planning your presentation. The first thing to do, of course, to communicate clearly is figuring out the purpose and audience of your presentation. Just like Madhumita pointed out in Module 1 of Unit 1 about monologues, knowing the purpose of your presentation and having a clear idea of your audience matter a lot when you design or plan your presentation. A brief digression here about the differences between presentations and public speeches. Do take a look. Since presentations have a more homogeneous audience than public speeches, it's easier to focus on who your listeners are and why you are making the presentation. There's more information on this shared under Learning Tip in Worksheet 3. Do take a look. So, to get back to presentation skills, the information you present must match the purpose of your presentation. There are two reasons why we might make a presentation. The purpose of the presentations can be 1, to inform, or 2, to persuade your audience. For example, you might be required to make a presentation on topics such as these: causes of global poverty, accessible and quality education is the need of the hour, and so on. The titles themselves tell you that the purpose is to transfer information to your audience. Your job in such case is to collect and share relevant information with your listeners. Now take a look at these. Are open educational resources the answer for accessible and quality education? Increasing customer satisfaction can create better customer loyalty. Topics like these are clearly argumentative in nature. The speaker, we know, will take a stand or adopt a side of the argument and present information to persuade the listeners to favor the presenter's view. In workplace settings too, you might be asked to either present information or make an argument. Here are a few examples. Customers needs to be considered while developing product X. This is clearly a title that requires you to inform your audience. The second one, why product orientation policy works better than market orientation policy for product X. This is clearly an argumentative topic. If you would like some additional practice on identifying topics that inform and topics that persuade, please do task 3.1 on worksheet 3. Whether your purpose is to inform or to persuade, the elements of a good presentation remain the same. The effectiveness of a presentation can be ensured if it has a clear structure. Let's start by understanding the structure of a presentation. In Unit 4 on writing, you will notice in Module 2, Professor Meera Srinivas talks about the structure of an essay. The structure of a presentation isn't in many ways different from the structure of a good essay. Like good stories, both essays and presentations need a beginning, a middle, and an end. A typical presentation would have the following parts: preface to the presentation, an introduction, a main body, and a conclusion, followed by questions and responses. A technique most speeches and presentations use to ensure structure is the tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them what you told them. This tells us about the need for a tight organization and clear structuring of our presentations. Let's start with tell them what you're going to tell them. Explaining the structure of our presentation is one way of telling our listeners what we are going to tell them. This is a good way to open your presentation. Let's look at the preface to the presentation. This is where we tell our listeners what we are going to tell them. The preface or the introduction to your presentation should start with a greeting. Greet your audience with a warm smile. Remember what we said in Module 3, Unit 1 while discussing starting and ending a conversation? Use a hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to greet the audience. After this, introduce yourself. If the audience doesn't know you, provide a longer self-introduction. If the audience knows you well, a brief introduction of just your name and what you do will suffice. You could refer to Unit 1, Module 1 for help with introducing yourself. So here's how points 1, 2 and 3 go together. Good morning everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Kshema Jose. Or hello everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to my presentation. My name is Kshema Jose. The next part of the introduction is where you announce the topic and the objective of your presentation. Here are some phrases you can use for this. Today I would like to talk about cyberbullying. Or the reason why I'm here today is to tell you about cyberbullying. Now let's see how these go together. Good morning everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Kshema Jose. Today I would like to talk about cyberbullying. Here my intention is to inform my audience of cyberbullying. Now what if my aim is to persuade? Then I could say, good morning everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Kshema Jose. Today I'm going to talk about the emotional cost of cyberbullying. I hope to convince you that training our students and teachers in digital citizenship skills can help prevent cyberbullying. Then explain the structure and mention the duration of your presentation. Take a look at possible options. My presentation will take about 20 to 30 minutes. First, I'll talk about such and such a thing. Then I move on to something else. Next, I talk about something else. Later, I talk about another point, and finally this. So these are possible options you could use. In the card, please pay attention to the words in bold. Remember the sequence markers Madhumita introduced to you in Module 2 of Unit 1? These are the same words used here to explain the structure of the presentation. Here is an example. There are 4 parts to my presentation. In the first part, I'll talk about cyberbullying. Next, I move on to the mental and emotional havoc it causes. After this, I evaluate the effects of digital citizenship skills training on controlling cyberbullying behavior. And the last part, we'll examine this from both student and teacher training frameworks. My presentation will take about 20 minutes. In the last part of the preface, tell your listeners when they can ask questions. It's better to allow questions either at the end of your presentation or after you finish each segment of your presentation. Make this clear. If it's an informal presentation, you could also allow your audience to interrupt you whenever they have a question. Here are a few examples to express this. Please feel free to interrupt me anytime you have questions. Or if you have any questions, please raise your hands anytime during the presentation. And all this should not take more than 60 to 90 seconds. I think this is a good time for you to take a break and look at Learn 3.2 and Learn 3.3 in Worksheet 3. These sections will help you recap all the phrases we've looked at so far. Once you've completed these, visit the links shared under Learn 3.4. There are 2 different examples of starting a presentation. Please pay attention to the differences. Now you're ready for task 3.5. Please listen to the rest of this module only after you complete this task. In part C, we get down to creating the actual presentation. The rule is simple. Like all things else, your presentation also should have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Start the introduction with a hook statement. Rhetorical questions, statistics, stories, anecdotes, humor, quotations, images, anything to create an impact. Here are a few ideas that can work as hooks. Rhetorical questions. Is there anyone here who doesn't want good grades? A rhetorical question is a question asked by the speaker just for effect. The answer may be obvious and no answer is expected from the audience. The speaker poses the question and then goes on to answer it themselves. Rhetorical questions help emphasize a point being discussed. These are effective because questions have a habit of making the audience think about an answer and thus ensure audience involvement. Impact can also be created with facts and statistics. Use of statistics bring credibility to your talk. Take a look at an example. Bullying is a universal evil. While the physical agony might take perhaps months or years to heal, according to a 2021 study conducted on school children, the mental suffering takes an average of 8 years to dissipate. Statistics can also lend a touch of drama and realism to your presentation. There are some authentic examples in worksheet 3 under Learn 3.6. Do take a look. Other ideas to hook your audience are using quotations, anecdotes, drawing a rich word picture describing a key theme of your topic, etc. Complete the online exercises shared under task 3.7. These give you more ideas for creating impactful opening paragraphs. So, we started with a hook statement. Now, to keep them hooked, firstly, you need to read and collect information from multiple and a variety of sources to create an effective and impressive main body of the presentation. The different points you make should be linked to what you said in the structure or outline of the presentation. Remember the preface? So, you heard me give you an outline earlier. What you see in red are what I have promised to explain. So, you expect me to talk about cyberbullying. During my talk, you might hear me define cyberbullying and give you a few examples. In the second part, you would want me to illustrate the emotional upheaval caused by cyberbullying. I would then move on to examine digital citizenship skills training. Then, based on student and teacher training models, I should explain the advantages of digital citizenship skills training. By the end of my presentation, I should have convinced you that delivering digital citizenship skills training can help reduce instances of cyberbullying. So, you see, each point you mention in your outline should be taken up and developed in your presentation. You could illustrate them with examples or endorse your views with supporting facts, information and data. You should also be able to make connections between the different points you raise. Please go to task 3.8 to practice this. In part D of this module, we move to the use of multimedia aids to support our presentation. The most popular presentation software tool presenters use now is the Microsoft PowerPoint. Of course, there are other tools like the Prezi, Google Slides, Pichakcha, etc. The use of such presentation slides is one feature that distinguishes presentations from public speeches. Public speeches usually are not accompanied by PowerPoint slides. During presentations, PowerPoint slides are used to present verbal and non-verbal content to make you present better and communicate your message efficiently. Used well, multimodal aids can also help the speaker reduce the amount of time spent presenting information and support the listeners to remember and recall main points presented. While all media, audio, video and static images can be used to support our presentations, in this module we are going to primarily focus on using images, pictures and other visuals on presentation slides. While using visual or multimodal aids of any sort, remember they must support or complement both the text on screen or slide, if any, and the presenters, that's your words. So, what do you think we're going to discuss next? Of course, let's discuss creating slides. So, shall we start? When creating slides, pay attention to the verbal and non-verbal elements you would use. When putting down words, follow the 6x6 rule. It's wise not to have more than 6 bullets per slide and 6 words per bullet. I've noticed it's okay to go up to 8 words depending on the length of the words you use. The limit on words means that the stories that you tell, the jokes that you crack, the word pictures you draw, the questions you ask, etc. do not appear on your slides. You deliver these details only orally. The next task illustrates what I just said. Here is the text. Imagine you are asked to convert this text to a PowerPoint slide. Do pause the video here and read the text carefully. Now let's look at the original text and the slide we create out of this. The original text is on the left and possible slide contents on the right. Notice how only the main ideas appear on the slide. Supporting details are pruned or removed altogether. These can be delivered as a spoken text though. Most function words, articles, prepositions, conjunctions, etc. are removed and content words retained. Sentences are shortened and repeated ideas are eliminated from the slide. Here is where I would like you to gain familiarity with note-making and summarizing abilities. These are addressed in Units 3 and 4. In Unit 4, Module 1, Professor Meera Srinivas explains in detail how you can summarize a text to extract its essence. In addition to brevity, a second important point about creating slides is ensuring consistency in font size and font type. Use the same font type, size and color for all the headings of your slides. Ensure similar consistency for all body texts too. Here is an example of what can go wrong. See the difference? You don't need me to tell you that the second one is difficult to read, visually unappealing and downright unaesthetic. It uses too many font types, different font sizes and a riot of colors. The last line on the second slide also uses italics, underline and bold together. Never do this. Choose any one feature for highlighting a word or a line. I'll give you a moment here to look at a summary of what we've discussed so far. Now is a good time to understand the difference between serif fonts and sans serif fonts. This is a task you can do on your own. Please do a Google search or an online search and find the difference between serif and sans serif fonts. Decide which you could use for titles and headings and which for body text. Finally, we look at the use of visuals. While using images or any other media, audio or video, go beyond mere decorative purposes. Don't use pictures or other media just for decoration purposes. You see the little icon inserted in the slide? What purpose does it serve other than maybe just make the slide look a little pretty? Nothing, no other purpose. This icon is therefore decorative in nature. Instead of decorative images, try to use images that illustrate your points. Your visual aids should support or strengthen the message you are communicating. To put it simply, choose images that represent a part of your text. Try to illustrate the meaning of an important word or convey your main point through the images you choose. Let's show you the difference between a decorative and a representational picture. We'll look at the opening slides of some presentations now. Here is one. This is clearly decorative in nature. Why? Because it doesn't add to the meaning of the topic. It's used merely for aesthetic purposes. The image is not essential for understanding the message. Now take a look at these two, A and B. Which one do you think captures the essence of the topic? While A is decorative in purpose, B gives you an example for inclusive beauty standards. Do you agree? Images can also add meaning to the important points in your presentation. In other words, you can let your pictures say what your words aren't saying. Allow the words and images to together create meaning. Here is a very simple example. Imagine I'm telling you about my friend Henry. So I say, Henry is a wolf. And I have three possible images that I can use. Take a look. See how depending on the image I choose, the impression you form of Henry varies? The image you form of Henry if I use the first image is different from what you would think of Henry if I use the second or the third picture. Go to Learn 3.9 to understand other kinds of presentation aids. Then do Task 3.10. Also, please complete Task 3.11 to get more practice on the use of visuals. An important thing to remember when selecting images is paying attention to the license of the images. Images found online or in print are generally copyrighted. Each one comes with some form of usage restrictions. So, while choosing an image for your presentation, remember to check their license. In the worksheet under Learn 3.12, you will find 2 resources that explain copyright issues. Read them to know more about copyright issues. However, there are also free images available online. You need to learn to locate them. Learn 3.13 shares resources that explain how to search for and use free images. Something you can do if finding free images is difficult is to create your own images. These days, many presenters click their own pictures, create illustrations, or draw using digital tools and use these on their presentation slides. Such images can also make your presentation unique. And a second important thing to remember when using images during a presentation is ensuring you give your audience enough time to read the slide contents. Keep this in mind when using slides during a presentation. Every time you change the slide, remember to give your audience a few seconds to understand what you have presented on the slide. Don't start talking immediately. Listening to you while reading the slide contents is difficult for your audience. We're almost nearing the end of our module. We've just 2 more parts to go. If you would like to, you can take a break here. Learn 3.14 presents the main ideas we've discussed so far. The next section, part E, tells us what all we need to pay attention to while delivering our presentation. As I said earlier, a presentation is one of the most effective mediums for delivery of a message. Along with the multimodal resources presented on slides, other modalities that can be employed are our voice, eye contact, posture, and gestures. Good presentations have high impact content and high drama in equal measures. Learn to employ a large dose of theatre. Let's now look at what we have at our service for this. Eye grammar. This is the set of rules that govern eye contact. Maintain complete eye contact with your audience. It helps you build rapport with your audience. Use the eyebrow flash to show familiarity or to indicate recognizing someone. An eyebrow flash typically involves the raising of both eyebrows quickly before lowering them again to a comfortable position. This is an indication of familiarity. Secondly, don't look at any one person for more than 2 or 3 seconds at a time. Maintain a slight smile. To ensure eye contact, make sure you do not read out from your notes or from the slides. Practice well and rehearse beforehand so that you are able to talk about the points in your own words. Posture. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. Plant both feet firmly on the ground. Gestures. Use positive gestures such as pointing to a slide, counting, using open palms, etc. Don't fiddle with your pen or pointer or other objects near you. Don't stand rooted to one spot. Don't hide behind a lectern. Come out, pace up and down the space given to you. Occupy and own the space totally. Voice. The most important thing is to be audible. Speak louder than you might do in normal, everyday face-to-face conversations. Listeners are affected not just by the words we use, but also by the way we utter them. Learn to modulate your voice. Talks get boring if you drone on using the same pitch and volume throughout. Use a variety of tones. Alter the pace of your delivery, fast and slow. Stress important words. Use silence to your advantage to emphasize. Stretch some vowels to signify emphasis. Now let's watch Sai Dhanyam make a presentation. This is part of a presentation he is making for a course in communication skills. His presentation is titled The Importance of Body Language in Communication. The text is taken from another source. You can read the text before watching the video here. Pay attention to the eye contact, posture, gestures and voice of the presenter.
So what is the importance of body language in a presentation? The physical manner in which you deliver your words can add further layers of meaning to your message, and it can increase the chances that your audience will retain and remember your key points. Conversely, it can also distract from what it is that you are trying to say. In that sense, if you project bad body language in a presentation, then it can create a great deal of disconnect with your audience. The proper body language in a presentation helps to convey that you have confidence in yourself and in your message. A speaker who knows the importance of body language in an oral presentation can help instill trust in its audience, which, among other things, can help to forge a connection. A presenter who knows how to effectively employ body language presentation skills can help to put emphasis on the ideas that matter the most. If you are really passionate about your subject, then show it. A lackluster delivery not only belies your enthusiasm, but also does nothing to emphasize your words and the meaning of your message. What should your audience believe? The words you use to share how excited you are to be there, or the flat tone in which you delivered them? Typically, they'll assume that your monotone delivery is more indicative of your true feelings than your words. Great physical communicators learn how to effectively align their facial expressions, gestures, posture, eye contact, movement, and other nonverbal elements to their message.
You would also notice that all of us who are part of this course have employed several of these techniques in our delivery of lectures. Please do task 3.16 on worksheet 3. Finally, here we are. We've reached the last part of the module, the conclusion of a presentation. Remember the technique we mentioned earlier? Tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them. Tell them what you told them is a good way to conclude your presentation. Take a look at the stages of a good conclusion and phrases you can use to conclude your presentation. Step 1. Reiterate the main objective. Step 2. Summing up. Step 3. Thanking the audience. Step 4. Open for questions. Remember my example from earlier parts of this module, my imaginary presentation on cyberbullying? Let's see how I can conclude this presentation. So the first step here is to remind your audience the objective or the main message of your presentation. So I say, in this presentation, I set out to show you how training in digital citizenship skills might reduce instances of cyberbullying. Secondly, I sum up by listing my main points one by one. Show your listeners how each point is linked to the central message of the presentation. And I say, I would like to conclude by pointing out that it's not just students but also teachers who need to receive training. Finally, end by thanking your audience for listening to you and then open the floor for questions. Invite the audience to ask you questions or start a discussion. Here is a possible conclusion for my presentation on cyberbullying. Pause the video here and read the text carefully. My intention today was to convince you all that training our students in digital citizenship skills is one way to reduce instances of cyberbullying. A second, more important solution is training our teachers. So to conclude, let's take a quick look at the first argument I posed, where I said that digital literacy skills can help even young children learn how to use digital media in respectful and safe ways. Moving on to revisit my second point, where I argued for the use of asynchronous digital channels for classroom communication. This is when we address the question, what's the role of the teacher? This helped us to examine the need and scope for teacher training in reducing cyberbullying. We need to not just develop our teachers' digital skills, but also train them to review online behavior, discuss red flags, monitor online content, and role model online interaction patterns. Thank you for listening to me today. If you have any questions, I shall be happy to answer them. But remember, while you summarize your points to reinforce your message and conclude your presentation, do reiterate. But remember to paraphrase. Never repeat the words you've already used in your presentation. That would be really boring. If you're interested in learning paraphrasing skills, please refer Unit 4 on writing skills. Learn 3.17 on Worksheet 3 gives you a lot of resources to understand the technique of tell them what you told them. But there's life after conclusion too. A few brief pointers on responding to questions. I agree this is a part that all of us are afraid of. What if we can't answer a question? The best solution offered by seasoned presenters is this: be prepared. While preparing your presentation, try and anticipate as many questions as possible. Be prepared for all possible questions. While someone asks a question, listen carefully. Repeat it once to make sure you got it right and to ensure everyone heard it too. This also gives you the time to think and plan your response. Answer each question by addressing the whole audience. If you can't find the answer to a question, ask if anyone else in the audience would like to answer it. And if nobody can, just say you don't have the answer to that question, or that you haven't thought about it, or that you might be able to provide it later. Here are some sentences you can use for this. I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that question, but I would be happy to look into that and get back to you with an answer. Why don't you email me, perhaps a week from now? So that brings us to the end of this module. Please go through Learn 3.18 carefully for a revision of the conclusion of the presentation stage. In this module, we looked at making effective presentations. We learned how texts, both written and spoken, along with visual aids, voice, eyes, body language, posture, and gestures all contribute to the success of a presentation. I hope you enjoyed working on this module. If you have any questions, do write to us. Thank you.